Okay, I'm seeing it's now 10 a.m., so we will begin the policy and governance meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with roll call. All three districts are present. The notice of the meeting was properly posted on February 10th, 2025. We'll begin with number one, which is discussion and possible action regarding approval of our minutes.
Motion approved. Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to entertain for us to strike number two since it's a duplicate on the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number three is a discussion and possible action regarding Oklahoma County MIS Department quarterly telework exception request. This was provided by Dane at request at our last meeting due to the governor's return to work. And it looked great to me, so I
Well written, babe.
will entertain. I know, I was impressed. It looked great. So we appreciate that. And it was very timely. It was right after the meeting. And so we appreciate your due diligence in getting that done and creating a really great report for us to receive quarterly. Can I get a motion to receive that report?
Motion received. Second.
I have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, number four is the discussion and possible action regarding our policies, processes, procedures, and status reports related to our planning, oversight, and administration of Oklahoma County's grant programs. I essentially just took the list that our previous grant specialist was working off of 2024 and added that to this agenda for discussion. So that way, if there's any grants, and I've got the AG's opioid grant on here separately because we need to take a couple actions towards that. So if we could just focus on anything else that may need work or have issues. I know that we had some concern in regards to an EV grant.
Yeah, I have tried to contact OG&E. I've not heard back from them. I wanted to verify whether or not the dollar amount in the contract included their part as far as the installation goes and getting power to the chargers. Have not heard back from them, although the agreement itself was unsigned. And at this point, kind of like to get the board's feedback. It seems like with a 20% match and the fact that we have to front this at the beginning before it's reimbursed, that maybe at this particular time that's more of a luxury than a necessity.
Right. I was unaware, and this was back in when I first started in 2023, that there was a match, which is around $85,000 that has not been budgeted in order to fund this grant. And it hasn't been signed. We don't have a whole lot of information about it. I know that there were some challenges. I don't see Keith Monroe in regards to where these EV chargers were going to be located. And so,
we can't have them at diversion.
Yeah, we cannot have them on a non-county owned property, and I think that was something that was being looked into. I agree with you. I mean, we don't have the funds, the matching funds, in order to move forward, and so I would be inclined to notify. I think it's ACOG that actually put out this grant that we would need at this point. Just decline that funding, so that way it could be reallocated to somebody else that could be able to fully fund that project and get it underway, since it's now been a couple years almost since it's been discussed, and it was never signed by the commissioners, and I couldn't find where it was actually approved. So you've been in communication with ACOG?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on the EV charger?
I think which you guys are a little bit more intelligible about the funds we have on hand. If it's something we really want to do, I bet we could pull something together. But with the changes of us finding out we can do a diversion hub and stuff like that, I'll move with you guys.
Okay.
You want to make the motion?
Sure, I
I'd
will
be
make
happy
the
to.
motion that we will contact, ACOG and tell them that we are, denying the funds at this time, and we'll just move on to something different. Hopefully that takes care of it.
And I believe that once we hire the grant specialist, that there'll be other grants like this that will be available for us to look at in the future, I'm sure. And so maybe we can go down that road again. But I definitely think this is the best decision moving forward. So I'll second that just because I was here during that time. If that's okay with you. I'll go ahead and second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. So in regards to further discussion, Paul, would you like to contact
I
ACOG? Okay, and then if there are any issues, or we can discuss again, I'll put this same grant list on the agenda for next month, and we can kind of discuss the outcomes of what that looks like.
Sure.
If we have any challenges. Did anyone see any other grants other than the AG opioid abatement grant that we needed to discuss further? I know there were a couple REAP grants. We did not receive a REAP grant for District 2. How are those going for your locations in regards to that equipment?
I'm trying to think of the conversations I had with the yard. To tell you the truth, I can't remember. I know they have been asking where those, or when they can order those.
Did you have any other concerns? Or?
Were you addressing the 781?
Oh, yeah, 781.
So the 781 grant, me, Joe, and Bridget met the other day. We're working on it. We have a good plan that we're going to start working with to get that moving. So we did meet with her and did get a mutual understanding on where that needs to go next. So it's moving.
Perfect.
Good.
Just an update. I had reached out to Christy in the treasurer's office. So far, Oklahoma County has received $2,452,676. Of that amount, $1,635,117.32 has been transferred to the Public Defender's Community Safe Investment Fund, but they have to have that MOU in order to be able to access those funds for the next 6 months. And so, will we have and I was looking to see when this contract expires. So this is through June 30th of 2024. So we need, so this is expired. So, when do you think on the next meeting that we'll have the MOU put together to be able to put across?
We've started working on it, so
Okay.
I imagine we'll have it.
Okay, I just want to make sure they can access that next tranche of funds. Lisa, you may have to stop me. I think I may be able to discuss this in this agenda item, but just an update on hiring for the new grants specialist. We have not received a lot of applications, and so Karen posted it in a little bit different way, listed what we have specified for the salary. Hopefully that draws some more attention, and if not, we may need to have further discussions at next month's policy and governance meeting.
How many have we received? 3?
3.
4.
4. We have 4 now.
Right.
So. Any other discussion regarding our grants watch list? I don't think there's any motions other than our motion regarding the EV grant. So we'll move on to number 5, which is discussion and possible action regarding policies, processes, procedures, and compliance reports related to the planning, oversight, and administration of grant funds received through the Office of Attorney General on behalf of the Opioid Abatement Board and House Bill 4138. That's a mouthful. So the grant was originally posted in regards to an RFP January 29th of 2024. So it's been nearly a year since we first sent out the RFP and awarded this grant to OU. And since then, they have come back and said that they had a change in programming or not able to utilize the funds as anticipated. And so we are at a point where we need to discuss what that looks like moving forward for this grant. I had Karen send the information of what the RFP looked like originally. Ashley is here, and so thank you for being here for this discussion. And so, and then I also attached the eligible uses and PowerPoint presentations that I also attended back in January and February and March regarding this grant. And so we're just to the point where we need to send out another RFP, I believe. And I would make the recommendation of just using the same RFP, changing the dates, and then, just communicating to our partners possibly that had applied in the past, nonprofit organizations, and then also communicating internally to the sheriff's department, detention center, our juvenile detention center, in regards to these funds being available. I will tell you, any nonprofits that go back and watch this or listen, there is, which I attached, a scoring card in regards to eligibility and how the opioid abatement board wants us to select the recipient. And so I believe it would be best to abide by those rules and guidelines again, so that way we can make sure that we're making proper selections. The issue with the first grant is, especially our some of our county partners, they did not submit all of the documentation correctly. It wasn't all received, and so it's important to make sure that you're looking through the guidelines of what is expected, what is required, and making sure that those are turned in a timely fashion. I believe that there were several that would have been really good opportunities to receive this funding, but we weren't able to consider those because not all of the documentation was provided. So just from experience from the first time, just make sure that everything's completed. The only thing I feel like if you guys are in favor of just using the original RFP is discussion of dates and when we want this sent out and how long we're going to give everyone in order to apply. It would be really nice to be able, and I feel like this one, solicitation date was January 29th. Questions were due by February 2nd, and then proposal due date and time was the 12th. And so they had, about 2 weeks or less in order to apply. And so if we used the same maybe 2 or 3 week guideline, we would be able to make a discussion to review those and make a decision possibly at the February P&G meeting. So, Ashley, if you could help us work through, and Chantel, I think if you're still involved, the proper dates and times to help us give them enough time to answer questions, send the RFP proposals, and then be able to get these in hands and us make a decision at the next policy and governance meeting would be great. Is that doable, or do you think we need more time? By March? We'll heed to your recommendation.
Are you wanting it returned by the March meeting? Is that what you're asking, or just a final draft?
It would be nice for us to be able to have the applications, and since we don't have a grants specialist at this time, we would need somebody to help us score them, because I don't think one office would be able to, unless we designated an office to look at that. How does that work, Lisa? When you've got 3 offices, and then if you in regards to scoring the applications.
Average. In other words, you have a scoring average,
Okay.
Whatever each individual applicant, you just make an average, and so of the score.
So we would all do a
Your
score
final
sheet.
score.
And then could we turn the score sheet into Ashley, and then you tabulate those scores? Is that the best
That would
way of doing that?
the last process, I know that we were up against a deadline, so it was pretty rushed. That 2 weeks, you may want to give a little bit more time. for it to be published, but when we receive the RFPs in, we will give you a summary of sorts, a tabulation, if you will. And then I think at that point, it would be appropriate to have the members look over that and possibly use the scoring metric that you were talking about that was attached. We can look a little bit more into that.
So maybe
That's
April.
already built in there.
Yes. Okay.
I was thinking we didn't have that.
Yeah, it's already built into the RFP.
Already, the scoring tabulation is already built in.
Okay.
Just
Well-
to clarify, it's more of a summary, not necessarily a scoring that we did on this one. This was the first RFP of this nature that we did. So it's more of a summary of the documents received and what they have to offer in the proposals, not necessarily a selection, if you will.
And the scoring matrix was provided by the AG's office and their board, so.
Are you saying that
Maybe
April would be a
April.
better timeline for April's P and G to get that?
I think it would be more feasible if you're wanting it completed and turned back in time for you guys to have enough.
Okay.
Do you
Review
want to set
period.
some particular dates for those then? So we can actually have possibly a selection by the April?
We can, when we develop the RFP, which is pretty much copy and paste at this point, we will work our dates backwards from that April meeting to make sure the timeline fits, if that helps.
So I think just as long as you give us a week before policy and governance, when you're working back from those dates, to be able to review those applications and then have further discussion with those applications and that scoring at the April policy and governance meeting. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Thanks, Ashley.
Do you want to make a motion in regards to moving forward with the RFP?
Yeah.
solicitation?
I'll move forward with the RFP and to have it
Available by April.
available by April.
Policy and governance.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for your help on this. Okay. And then number 6 is discussion and possible action regarding the Oklahoma County Purchase Card Pilot Program.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
This is regarding two updates that we have. Our sheriff's office has requested that warranty repairs related to their Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office vehicles, specific to their computer equipment and docking stations, be added to the list of authorized expenditures for the P-card program. The reason for this, they have several vehicles that are outfitted with equipment that is still under warranty, and that manufacturer, Gamber Johnson, just notified them last year that they would no longer be able to take POs as payment. The only other alternative method that we have that would allow them to continue this to not void the warranty is to use the P card for this purchase. So we're requesting that that be added. And then the second update is to add an additional card in my name with a limit of $10,000. This would eventually, Chandel's card will be inactive, and that would be purchasing's card to help other departments' subscriptions. The same that we've been doing, just a different name.
Okay. I will move that the warranty repairs be added and that Ashley's card be added as well.
Paul, I had one more question for you, just real quick. It has on here that Carrie Blimmer is still a P card holder. From my understanding, Joe had requested that she be taken off this list.
Okay.
What's the update on that?
I can go back and look, but we can get that updated. I think there's a couple of other changes that may need to be had to the actual master card holder list, and we can come back with a fine-tuned version,
Thank you.
if that'll work.
Sorry to interrupt, Paul.
No, that's all right. Okay.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your promotion. Okay, number 7 is discussion and possible action regarding stipend amount and duration to pay Christine Troxel for burial and cremation administrative cost. And so we, in previous discussions during these meetings, had made a motion for Christine to be able to continue our burial and cremation services, but we did not specify the amount or the duration as to which she would get paid for such services. The MOU is attached, and the MOU does specify administrative costs, so we can use ARPA funding in order to pay for this.
So that did not come out of the 229?
It will come out of the amount that we allocated towards cremation and burial services, and that was included in Cody's math. We just never, on the mic, designated the amount. Okay. And so with further conversation with our HR department, and then looking at the MOU in regards to timeframes, it would be my recommendation for us to prorate the amount back to November 1st, because that was when she started performing those services for us. And then it extends all the way through December 31st of 2026 in guidance of ARPA guidelines, and felt like $750 would be a reasonable stipend in order to pay her monthly.
Okay. Motion to approve the $750 stipend in the MOU.
Second.
Okay. And for November 1st through December 31st.
November 1st through December 31st.
Okay. Got a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, number 8 is the discussion and possible action regarding the MOU between the Board of County Commissioners of Oklahoma County and Oklahoma County District Attorney regarding our pretrial release supervision and GPS monitoring. At our last meeting, we had discussed that the MOU was put together in order to cover salary and benefits, and this was also discussed in BET. We did find that the employee that is in this position did not take county benefits. They did take county retirement, and so we were able to reallocate that funding towards another service or 2 other services that were not listed, one of which was the cell phone that the employee needed in order to perform her work, and the actual GPS meeting with DA Behenna and putting together a budget in order to make sure that we, and working with Ms. Behenna and our office, and then your office also reviewed it to make sure that we were able to cover all of those expenses between now and June 30th of 2024. This will only cover the next couple months. The amount of funds that we were able to reallocate from the overpayment of benefits was, I don't think I have the exact amount. Do you remember?
Yes, good morning. The district attorney's office will return $8,317.74 to the BOCC.
Yes. And that will actually cover the cost of the GPS monitoring over the next few months.
Yes, and then I believe the intention was that I would process GPS payments through the end of the fiscal year with the remaining balance. So it may be over that $8,000. We're estimating around $3,000 a month. So that would pay a couple months worth. There is a balance in the fund to continue paying through the fiscal year end.
Okay. Thanks, Brandon.
The and then it also covers the cell phone amount, and we can have further discussions at BET in regards to what the indigent GPS looks like moving on through the next year. So what is attached is the most current MOU that needs to be approved or recommended for approval at the next BOCC meeting.
All right.
Any questions?
Nope. Motion to approve recommendation for the MOU for the remaining of this fiscal year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Miranda's doing this. It's a lot of work, so I really appreciate all your time and effort. Everyone's in regards to getting us through this into this year, and then we'll have further discussions in regarding to all court services and our future BET meetings. Okay, number 9 is the discussion and possible action regarding a receiving officer for the Board of County Commissioners, Karen Kent. has a recommendation for us. And this is due to Ashley's promotion. She previously was our receiver, and so are you in effect now, or is it February 20th was just our deadline to get this taken care of? Okay, so we need to have this decision made and approved by the 20th of February.
Yes, and going through the list of the current receiving officers, we kind of picked out Christine Troxel to do this. According to Ashley, it only takes maybe 30 minutes to an hour a week. There's not a lot. And we have talked to Dane, and they agreed that Christine would be the receiving officer for IT unless something's changed. Yeah. She's currently IT's backup receiver, so she'll just be doing the receiving for the BOCC accounts.
Good to me. Do you guys have any other suggestions or thoughts? Nope.
I'll move to push the item.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank
Aye.
you, Karen. Okay, number 10 is discussion and possible action regarding policies, processes, procedures, and status report related to the planning, oversight, and administration of Oklahoma County's ARPA funding allocation. This was also on the agenda for the number 13, but we'll go ahead and address it now if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Danielle, is she present? Is she? Oh, there she is.
Hello, good morning,
Hello.
everybody. I will go ahead and do a screen share as well since we have access today. Okay, here we are. Hopefully you all can see my screen. So this is our general updated report as usual, just kind of walking through what is been going on with ARPA funding. So we'll go over our fund status, which is a little bit different now that we're into the new year because we no longer have to really talk about the obligation deadline since we've already met that. So what we'll be talking more about is what you have liquidated and what you have expended, and we'll get more into that as we get into the report. We'll talk a little bit about our subrecipient management. So that's our new subrecipients that we're still going through that contracting process with as we brought them in at the very end of the year. Just a quick reporting update and then walking through the work plan for the next couple of weeks. So as I was saying, this is your kind of overview of funding. You have a total of 143 projects that went into the Treasury portal at the end of the year, and you were able to authorize and obligate your full SLFRF allocation. So now what we're going to be looking at is what has been liquidated by the county and what has been expended. So the difference in these will be that your liquidated is what has come out of the county account and gone to either subrecipients or gone straight to your contractors. And the expended amount is what your subrecipients have spent. So you may have sent a subrecipient $1 million, but based on how their program is structured, they didn't spend all of it at one time. So that's why we do our site visits. That's why we do our quarterly reporting with them to track how much they're expending and ensure that they stay on track with the 2026 deadline of making sure all of the expenditures are out the door. So you can see the county has liquidated quite a bit of the funding. So 99 total projects have been fully liquidated, fully liquidated. You have 12 that have been liquidated over 50%, 14 just under 50%, and then 18 that have not yet had liquidation. So part of this is because of those new subrecipients. So that's getting them through that full contracting project. And you'll see some of those on the BOCC agenda this week as well. We are, I think 4 of them will be signed by BOCC this week. So we'll see that number change as well. So the county's doing a great job of getting the funds out the door, and then we track with our subrecipients to make sure that they are expending. We have had 52 projects that have been fully expended, which is really, really exciting. We have 14 projects that have expended more than 50% of their funds, 39 that have expended less than 50% of their funds, and then 38 who have not quite started their expenditures yet. This can be for a multitude of reasons, whether they are in different phasings, whether they're still going through contracting and things like that. but doesn't necessarily create any concerns at this time. But we will continue to monitor if there are no expenditures by the middle of the year, and making sure we have really good touch point with those subrecipients so that they continue to get the funds into the community. This is just your overview of that liquidated number. So we've talked about the total number of projects, and this shows you where it's been liquidated within each of the EC categories. So we don't necessarily need to get too in the weeds on this, but for your information, there were no changes to EC4 or EC8 when it came to liquidation. This is because your premium pay was done quite a long time ago, and so that number will never change. And then your EC8 for natural disasters is really for a couple of your subrecipients that were procuring items such as respirators and gas masks and things like that for when they're firefighting. This also includes fire trucks and generators. So those numbers have not changed, but you have had some liquidations in each of the other categories. So in public health, you expended over $500 or liquidated over $500,000. In your negative economic impacts, it was $448,000. In your public sector capacity, it's been $497,000. And then in EC6, your revenue replacement, there's been a change as well, where there was a liquidation of $510,000 as those projects have continued to move forward. So very exciting, just continuing to watch these bars kind of grow together and connect. And then we're doing the same thing here, breaking down what that expended amount is. So we talked about our liquidated. Now we're looking at what has been expended, and it has been quite a bit. In the total quarter, there has been $10.6 million that was expended in your public sector capacity section. There was $5.45 million that was expended in your negative economic impacts, and then another $5 million that was expended in public health. So you can really see that there's a lot of funds continuing to move, and that items are getting across those finish lines and reaching those exciting thresholds. This slide here is just giving you that comparison of what your liquidated to expended looks like. So the blue lines that you see, that is the sum of your obligations in each of these expenditure categories. So that number isn't going to change. And then your sum of liquidated is that yellow color. So again, that's the amount of funds that have come out of the county and into projects. And then your sum of expenditures is that brownish color, and that's just showing what has gone out from those individual projects and subrecipients. So those will continue to grow together and at some point all be at the same. But this kind of helps give you just a good visual of how things are progressing. So that's a very broad overview of the fund status. Are there any questions before we move into our subrecipient management? Very good. So this is just giving you all an idea of where we are at in the contracting phase with each of our new subrecipients. So you can see where we have collected all of their documentation, or if we are waiting on some additional information, which is the case in a couple of our subrecipients, as well as maybe getting some updates, whether it was on their KPIs or changes in the budget, making sure that those modifications meet the eligibility criteria and walking through any changes that are necessary. So we have been able, though, to go through and do our subrecipient checklist and our risk assessment for nearly all of the projects, which is really exciting. It helps us get ahead for the contracting phase after their budgets are finalized by our team. Then we're able to put everything into the contract, saying whether they're a low, medium, or high risk recipient. We have been able to draft we have had subs sign 4 of the contracts, which again I noted will be on BOCC this week, but we have been able to draft more contracts than that. So as you can see from this one, we had 5 on here are Impact 405, City of Spencer, the New View, Oklahoma, and Millwood Public Schools. These are each organizations that have submitted all of the required documentation. We have vetted it, it is correct, and we've been able to put it into a contract and send it over to the subrecipient for signature. Some of those we've received the signatures, and some of them we are pending, but as we get them, we will add them to BOCC as well. This is your second set of subrecipients as well. So again, here we've gotten a lot of great information and been able to draft contracts for the Uncommon Ground Sculpture Park, the YMCA of Oklahoma, Fostering Sweet Dreams. So all of those will continue to move forward, and you will see the 4 BOCC agreements this week, and then there will be 2 more upcoming following that. And as we continue to work with our few remaining, we will get those on BOCC as well. But in really, really great shape as we're moving forward with our subrecipients. Does anybody have questions about the status of our new subs. All right, we'll jump into reporting updates. This is very straightforward. You'll see there's a star on the deck here. That is where we are now. So we just finished submitting at the end of January the P&E, the Project and Expenditure Quarterly Report for Quarter 4. So this was a really, really big deal, as you all know, because it was making sure that every project is in the system and making sure that all of our obligations made it across that threshold. And they did, of course. So when you go into the portal, it shows that you are returning $0 to the Treasury Department, which was our overarching goal to make sure all of those funds stay in Oklahoma County so that they could be used in the community. So we've been able to meet that benchmark, and now we'll continue to move forward, and there will be our next quarterly expenditure, which will be due at the end of April. And then as we wrap up our April reporting, we'll go ahead and just start working on our annual report as well. The annual report, as you all know, is the document that gets linked onto the Oklahoma County ARPA website, and it lists out each of your projects, what their KPIs are, how they're performing, and the benefit that it has had in the community. So this is our very comprehensive, 200 plus report. So we'll start working on that as early as April, and it will be due at the end of July. And again, will be, of course, hosted on the county website. This just gives you an overview of where we're at in the process. Again, nothing new here, but just kind of walking through what reports are left. And now we'll jump into the work plan unless there are questions about reporting. All right. So as we have been talking about, we've been working a lot with our new subrecipients. So that has been a lift throughout January and into February as well. It always takes a little bit of time after the holidays to get everyone remotivated to get all of the documentation across the finish line. So working on finalizing those subrecipient agreements. We did, of course, submit the quarterly reporting, and then we are preparing for site visits and desk reviews and an upcoming compliance webinar. I'm going to jump over to the next slide so that you can see what our upcoming site review and desk review schedule will look like. So these will all be occurring between the month of February and March, and we will be looking at each of these organizations and just making sure that they don't have any quick questions, and that as they've been expending, they've been following all of the procurement requirements. So we'll meet with the Care Center, we'll meet with FAM again, the Allied Arts of Oklahoma, the Regional Food Bank, Dale Rogers Training Center, On Call Project, Northeast Oklahoma Renaissance, Bonnie's Helping Hand, and the Oklahoma County Relief Funds. So what you'll see on the right-hand side is whether or not this is a closeout visit for these organizations. And it's quite exciting because we do have several that are going to be closed out. So both of the projects that are at the First Americans Museum, which is their Family Discovery Center, and then their Cultural Center Foundation, this will be their closeout review. Allied Arts of Oklahoma, this will also be their closeout review. What they were doing was issuing funds to other nonprofits that submitted in their own portal and had to go through a scoring mechanism that were impacted during COVID. So then they were able to give them some relief based on the relief that you provided to them. So this will be a closeout for them as well. And for the Regional Food Bank, who used those funds to credit accounts in Oklahoma County so that they had a higher purchasing power to provide food into the community. So really exciting to get connected with each of these organizations. Again, some of them, it is not our first time, but then we will be able to bring some of these closeouts to you as well and can formally close the projects out in the portal and then present you some little slides on them as well. This is just our general overview, kind of gives you an idea of where we think things are going to lay when it comes to our risk assessments, our site visits, which we do tend to base on their risk. And then, of course, kind of giving you an idea of when those quarterly reporting items are due and when we are looking at holding compliance webinars. So I know this looks really jumbled, but it helps us kind of keep an idea of what our lift is each month. But that is all I have for you guys today for our program report, unless there are questions.
So I do have an update. Ryan, Paul, do either of you have questions?
No.
Okay, so thank you, Danielle, for that report. I do have an update on the Donahue. I have participated in now 2 conference calls with the other donors that have contributed towards this project, and they are working through a $124 million budget gap. Shortfall in regards to being able to build the Donahue. And so we are continuing to have meetings every 2 weeks in order to determine what that looks like. but there is a high probability that we will have to reallocate those funds either to a new initiative for the Donahue or possibly reallocate them altogether. And so I will continue to monitor that situation, and I know that Danielle has a site visit with them as well. But I just wanted you to be aware that I have been in communication with them, and we are working towards determining what that looks like. So I'll have another update at the next policy and governance meeting. That's all I have.
I'll make a motion to receive the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And number 11 is discussion and possible action regarding project cancellation, reallocation, increase, or other intended uses of excessive funds from ARPA project 10033, which is the court clerk social distancing, in the amount not to exceed $400,000.
Yes, so this and item 12 may end up ultimately going together, but we have been notified by the engineering department that there is a reduction in the need of funding for the fifth floor project. They will not need that $400,000 in order to complete the work that is ongoing on the fifth floor, and would like to instead move those project funds over to the ICB to continue work over there, since that project came in a little bit over budget. I did have some conversations with Stacy and reminded them that this has to maintain eligibility and cannot be used for the exterior of the ICB, which was not a concern on their end. And he indicated these were going to be modifications to things such as the electrical systems and other internal mechanisms inside the facility. But I do have the agenda items separated out so that you have the opportunity to discuss if there is another use of the funds that you would like to see or not. And then, of course, as these are passed forward, if we make any changes, we have waited to make modifications to the PDA subrecipient agreement, waiting for this meeting. But if things are to move forward, then we will, of course, update the PDA subrecipient agreement to match as needed. But this allows you all to have that conversation, and I'm not sure if Stacy is there, but I know you all are also aware of this ask from their office.
I move you take 11 and 12 together,
Okay.
and we approve the recommendation to move $400,000 from court clerk social distancing to the ICB.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
For number 11 and 12. Aye. Okay, and then, did you get that, Sharon? And then I'll make a motion to strike number 13, since it's just a duplicate in agenda item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then, yeah, 13. 13 was duplicate. And then citizen participation, seeing none. Any board comments or new business?
None from D3.
Okay, none.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.